can adjust it, can't you?
The rate of trouble I get in? No, not usually. Hey, it's Lee from Island Biologicals. I'm here with Jason Kent Simmons of the Overseer Saddlery. And we got Tom in the background there. He hasn't got a mic, so we'll be able to ignore him. So I'm up here at Armidale with a multi that Jason has put in. It is November. Stuff is coming up and getting moving. Jace, when did you plant this one, mate?
It's planted approximately 10 to 14 days ago.
Okay.
Weather's been really good. It's been raining, but there hasn't been the warmth in the atmosphere to make it grow. So it's germinated, but just not growing as quickly as we would expect. Okay.
So bit of warm this week might kick it along.
Sunshine on the way will make it happen.
Yeah,
yes.
That'll be fantastic. What's in your mix?
So in this mix, it's going to be potentially a green manure crop, but it's cowpeas, vetch, millet is the main base, and then there's a whole heap of odd little seeds, clovers and ryegrasses and fescues and all that sort of stuff as well, just to stay as after the millet's done its thing.
Right. So how much have you put in here? How much hectares have you chucked under?
So 20 acres, so 8 hectares under this one.
Yep.
We have done another 3 or 4 paddocks, and we did mix up the species in the others. So this one here is coated with Biocast. They were all uncoated seeds. The other paddocks, we had to actually buy treated seed. So we've planted that, and we'll biological afterwards to try and save the biological of the soil.
Yeah.
It was a necessity. The season was there, so we went with the coated seeds.
Yep.
I'd rather get it in than not do it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. You've still got some opportunity for something good. So I've been here a few times. You seem to do multi quite a lot. Summer or winter or both? Or
both, and I don't think we actually need to separate the seeds now. I used to.
Yeah.
We're just putting seeds in. There's canola in here as well. There you go.
Righto.
There's I don't think we need to separate the seeds. This mix was one I did a few years ago, and I put 7 foot of plant material into the paddock in 6 months. So we mulched the millet down to 40 centimetres, top of the cowpeas, and we did that several times and sprayed with Biocast and got it to kick up. Now that paddock will go to in a little while. It's 3 years after having a multi-species in it, and it's really recovered quite well. Yeah. And still got a lot of the species there.
Yeah, righto. So that was about when I started coming up here. That was going on. So yeah. Yep. And that's 5 years because my daughter wasn't born yet.
There you go, okay.
Well, she's approaching 6, so your memory's crap.
Yeah, I know that.
The seasons fly by. Yeah, all right, well, that's great. Well, you're going to send me a photo in a few weeks, I hope, because I reckon this is going to come up great with a couple of lovely warm days.
So this particular paddock, I planted sulphur prill and calci prill down 50 mil, so down below.
Right.
So I went over it once, planting the calcium and the sulphur deep, and then planted the seeds over the top. But I did put the cowpeas with some calcium just to get my rate, and planted it at 20 mil.
So you put prill into the seed box on the second round, the seed round as well?
Yes, it was just the calci prill to get my rate on the cowpeas.
Yeah, okay.
Because they were a bigger seed and they were separate.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. So I know you're a big fan of calcium. What's the advantage of putting it in as opposed to just maybe going and doing a broadcast on the top?
We use the prill because it's finely ground. So normal lime or ag lime is below 500 micron. Calci prill is actually below 20 micron.
Right.
So it's more available.
Yep.
We use less of it, and putting it in under the surface didn't matter whether it was dry. So when we were planting when it was dry, you can plant that in and still get a reaction.
Yeah.
If you put it on the surface, it takes a long time to get down to the root zone.
Right, so it's putting it in the zone where it's
Yes.
going to be utilised the quickest.
Yes. We've done it with clients as well, where they've planted a pasture, they've sprayed out, they've done all the conventional stuff. The species that they planted didn't really want to grow there because they hadn't changed the soil.
Yeah.
We then planted sulphur, calcium, boron deeper under the existing pasture, and it just took off.
Righto.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of a showpiece to show what can happen.
Yeah.
I have done plots now that I've planted everything at the same depth. This is the one I planted where the calcium was deeper.
Okay. Well, that'll be an interesting one as well.
Yeah.
So from here, what will you likely do to this?
This could be a green manure crop. I'm not exactly sure. Depends on the season.
Yeah.
We do have 70 odd acres in, so the property is 500 acres. We've got 70 acres under multi-species. They are our worst paddocks. I've chosen to do the worst paddocks this time.
Fair enough.
And we've, it'll just depend on, I may put some into silage and I may just graze it, just depends on the season.
Yeah, okay.
I have reduced cattle numbers so I can have the option of doing what I need to do with it.
Righto. Right. Well, that's fantastic. I look forward to seeing how it goes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Dig up this soil with your fingers.
Yeah, Jace, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So we're up in a different paddock. Jace is just digging for worms with his hand. Yeah, apparently this used to be the norm. You used to be able to dig soil with your hands, and it just isn't a thing. But with a different mix, you can end up back there.
Before this multi-species and before the millet crop we had in this was a very light grey granite.
Yeah, right.
And it's now got a depth of colour.
Right, so just looking at that again, like, yeah, okay, you can get into a sandy bit underneath, but for the most part, it's got texture and it's got moisture and well, there you go.
With the multi-species, the plants have actually taken, they all get a run at different times.
Yeah.
So at the moment we've had a dry session and it's knocked the clovers back.
Yeah.
But the chicories and plantains and all the other stuff are just having a bit of a go.
Chicory's looking, there's good clover coming through in it.
This is a lucerne that, we planted lucerne for 10 years before it actually grew. We changed conditions and now the lucerne grows really, really well.
So it's there waiting,
It was there waiting. It was waiting for its conditions. Vetch, it's still going there. There's a vetch plant over here that's really hammering.
So when was the last time seed went into this paddock, mate?
Well, that would be, what'd you say, your daughter's 5 years old?
Nearly coming up 6, right. So there's been no seeding of these annuals in that time?
No.
So they're
what we had was the millet crop, millet, cowpeas and vetch.
Yep.
That was green manured back into this.
Yep.
And then we sprayed it and we planted a multi-species.
Yeah, when you say sprayed it, you don't mean Roundup?
No, we sprayed it with Biocast.
I've heard of that stuff.
Yeah, so...
right, so you planted it to multi-species at that point.
Yes.
And it's persisted, it's managed to self-seed or grow from the seed bank that remained.
Yes.
For nearly 6 years.
Now I've mulched this a few times and it would have been ready to bale, but I've actually mulched it and put it back into the soil.
Yeah. Tom's just picked himself a salad.
Very sweet.
Oh, but he looks great.
So it's all trying to run to seed just simply because of the season, I think. And I'll put the cattle over this rapidly, just knock the top off it and let it try and thicken back up again.
Yeah, so when did the rain remember to start again this season?
This is 2 weeks growth since the rain.
Since the rain, right.
So this was nearly bare to the ground,
yeah.
Dried off, not much here at all.
Yep.
And this is 2 weeks growth from the rain, yep.
Okay, so that's not bad for 2 weeks. But do you know how far behind in your annual rainfall you would be at this point?
Up to this point, before this lot of rain, we've had 4 inches of rain. As before that, we were 15 inches for the year. So we're normally a 32-inch rain.
Yeah, right. So a fair way back,
so
but
it's less than half.
It's responded on whatever it got. It did something with.
Yep. There's an oat plant there, Lee. It's a self-sown out plant, obviously.
Yeah, there's prairie, there's rye, here's our miscellaneous oat, plantain,
Chicory,
yeah.
the lucerne,
Yeah.
clovers. So there's astrid red clover,
Right.
white clovers. It's hunter lucerne.
Right.
So all older varieties.
Yep.
The dung beetles in here still, Jace, even though they seem to be walking around on the plant.
So it's interesting to see the amount of matter on the ground, and that was simply because of the dry weather.
Yeah, just browned off.
It just browned right off
Yeah.
and fell. When you dig down into that, there's moisture, there's litter.
Yeah.
You can see it breaking
It's
down,
just
and
soft and yeah. There's stuff emerging from it as well. Things very good.
so yes, this was never Roundup. It was lots of lady beetles.
Yeah.
This was actually just a biological spray, and it's probably had 4 or 5. We biologically spray probably twice a year.
Yeah, righto.
Either food sources or
Yep.
biocast. So we'd use fish,
Yep.
molasses, diatomaceous earth we've done, biocast, we've done some compost, we build our own mineral brews, so we use cow manure and then we add copper, zinc, boron, sulphur, calcium, all that sort of stuff, humidify it in a pile and then spread that at a rate of about 1 tonne per hectare.
Right, so it's pretty light.
It's pretty light and it just seems to spark things up, and we try to do that on seasonal changes, either spring or autumn.
So down in another paddock that's been planted, and it's just starting, things are starting to poke through. Bit of vetch coming up in there. You can see the lines where it went in, but this soil, sand, is not quite like where we've just been, Jace.
No, but this grey colour, so the grey colour we see in these soils here
Yeah,
is what we used to be.
right.
So when we looked at the soil there before,
Yeah,
it's actually quite dark. So this here is when it gets wet, it turns to soup.
Yeah.
It's that granite that you break through and turns into soup.
right.
But the other paddock started like this.
Right.
So
So
as you build carbon, as you build root
Yeah.
zones and all that sort of thing,
Right.
this will change.
So plants built the soil,
Yes.
and
Yep.
suddenly you've got soil, and then get more plants.
Yeah.
Seems
and
to be
then
like a cycle.
it is a little bit like that.
Yeah,
But to get depth, to build your soil, we're talking about building it in depth. So
yes,
where this paddocks used to be, where it was heavily set stocked, heavily grazed, the root zones were only 2 inches.
yeah, right. Yeah.
And that was the only little aerobic zone that we had in there. And
Yeah.
once you busted through that, it was turned to rubbish.
Yeah,
We're now seeing depths of soils, 4 or 6 inches.
Yeah, righto.
And in these paddocks, these are the worst paddocks that we're just trying to push and get ahead. We'll plant a multi-species here. We'll see how they grow. We're throwing everything at it. So we put a compost on it. We put boron on it. We planted it with calcipril and sulphur, multi-species. And we'll try and step it ahead. So these paddocks have never really had enough on them to mulch too much.
Yeah.
But the opportunity is we'll be able to put something back into these soils.
yeah. So you're saying you're growing your soils. Do you reckon you're growing up or down?
Definitely growing down.
Right. So the paddock's
depth.
not getting taller.
No.
The soil's getting further down.
Deeper.
Yeah.
We ran a field day a few years ago, and a mate of mine jumped the fence into the neighbours and dug the soil up, and it was like this. It was grey.
Yeah.
He came back and he said, "When did you turn yours to basalt?"
Mm.
It just had a deep, rich colour to it.
Yeah.
And that's in the previous paddocks that
Yeah.
we've just been looking at.
Yeah.
But they're the paddocks we've put the material back into. So that last paddock we're in, we put 7 foot of plant material in 6 months.
So you got something like very, very labile carbon getting utilised and put back into the cycle quite quickly, and then plants are able to grow better and put it
Yes.
deeper and deeper.
So just giving back to the soil
Yeah.
and allowing it to do its job. if we keep taking from it, we
Yeah.
end up back here.
Yeah, because we've just, well, have you mulched this or is this?
No, this
Right.
is just planted into.
Right, so here and we've just looked over the fence, there's not a lot, so there's not a lot can go back in of what was here.
So the multi-species will be what we can put back in.
What you can get back in there. So
Yeah. And it may not thrive this year,
yeah,
but the more we put back, the more thrive will gain.
yeah, it's it's a process of building, isn't it?
And it is. It's just giving back to what we've, generations have taken from.
Yeah,
It's not the best soil about it. It would only have a CEC of potentially 5.
yeah,
And it is very close to sand. We've put the minerals in there. We have balanced the minerals, but we just haven't got that spark yet, and that's why we're pushing the multi-species into this area to try and get some material to put back in.
yeah. It's if these will get going. It's starting to rain now, so maybe they will.
Maybe it will.
Maybe it will. I'll be interested to see the changes in this over the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, this is the start. So these paddocks are on the extremities of our place where we were doing trials early on. So
Yeah.
we basically, the outside paddocks were either too wet or too sticky or whatever. We didn't get to them, so these are the last ones to start to kick up. So
Yeah.
we've aimed at all the worst paddocks this year.
Yeah,
And the good ones are good.
Yeah,
They've
well.
responded beautifully, and these ones are the worst ones. So we'll just we'll work on them this year and see if we can get some response.
work your way out.
Yep.
Be an interesting journey. We look forward to it.
It is.
We'll see what happens to this by the time Coralie's in high school.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too many droughts in between.
Remember the date, Lee, won't
Yeah,
you?
I will. Yeah,
won't.
I'll write it down there. Thanks, mate.